I've talked numerous times about feelings left to fester and incubate, and how they can become bitter and dangerous. So let's talk about revenge. Usually party A is wronged or feels wronged and plans some measure of retribution or payback against party B. But if the feelings of being wronged or slighted in some way are allowed to linger and bubble away over years as opposed to days or weeks, then the plans they develop can become ever more diabolical. In today's tale, it seems that the target for retribution skips a generation, as a newlywed couple become a target for what was India's first ever parcel bomb. This is the tragic case of Sourya Sahu, and this is Murder of Crows. Patnagar is a town and a notified area council in Bolangir district in the Indian state of Odisha. Its original name is Patnagar, and it is pronounced verbally as Patnagad. The official language is Odia. Patnagar bears historical significance as it was the epicenter of power in the Middle Ages. Patnagar was the capital of 18 separate Gan that come under South Koshal. In 12th century AD, the progenies of the famous king of Delhi, Prithviraj Chauhan, came and settled down in Patnagar. They came here because Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj Chauhan in the Second Battle of Tarai in 1193. The first child of the royal scion who ruled Patnagar, as per recorded history, was Ramay Deo. However, after the 16th century onwards, when Balangir and Sambalpur came into being, the city lost its influence and charm. As of the 2001 Indian census, Patnagar had a population of 45,445. Males constitute 51% of the population, and obviously females 49%. Patnagar has an average literacy rate of 67%, higher than the national average of 59.5%. Male literacy is 76%, and female literacy is 57%. In Patnagar, 11% of the population is under 6 years of age. But join me now as we visit this relatively small town in India in February of 2018 to look at an occasion that should have been full of joy, but became nothing short of a nightmare. On February the 23rd, 2018, in Patnagar, a new couple married for just 5 days, 26-year-old software engineer Sourya Sahu and Rima, the wife, were at home preparing lunch when a courier delivered what looked like another wedding gift. Addressed to Sourya, the package had been sent from Raipur, more than 230 kilometers away. When Sourya pulled the thread to unwrap it, the box exploded. The blast ripped through the house, shattering windows and cracking walls. Sourya's 85-year-old great-aunt, Jenamani, was fatally injured and died on the way to the hospital. Sourya himself was rushed to VSS Medical College and Hospital, but he did not survive. Rima, who had been by his side, was thrown across the room. She suffered severe burns, a punctured eardrum that left her with permanent hearing damage, as well as other life-changing injuries. She was rushed to the hospital, where she had to stay for over a month, fighting to recover. Later, she described how the explosion left her in shock. Her skin blistered, and her body so weak that she could not move on her own. She said she still hears the sound of that blast in her head, still sees the moment her husband collapsed beside her. What should have been the happiest week of her life became the beginning of years of physical and emotional scars. Whether diagnosed or not, this poor woman is clearly suffering from PTSD, which is hardly surprising when she avoided death by mere feet, and perhaps even less than that. At first, investigators had nothing to go on, no ideas, no leads, no evidence. The case was handed from local police to the Odisha crime branch, but there were no eyewitnesses, no fingerprints, and no CCTV. More than 100 suspects were questioned and then ruled out. Senior IPS officer Aaron Botra, who led the case, said later, "This was a special case, as there was no evidence at all when the crime branch took up the investigation. All evidence was circumstantial." Weeks went by without any progress at all, given the lack of anything to go on. But then in April 2018, an anonymous letter arrived for the investigators. And this letter claimed 3 men were behind the project and that the motive was Sourya's betrayal. Basically, it was hinting at either a scorned lover or some kind of property dispute. It even accused police of harassing innocent people. But the letter backfired. It referred to the sender of the parcel as S.K. Sinha, even though the courier records listed S.K. Sharma. That detail could only have come from the person who sent the package itself. Investigators noticed the very polished English used, the phrasing, and the spacing. And Sourya's mother immediately recognized it as resembling the style of her colleague Punjilal Mayer. Suspicion turned to him. Police searched his house and found evidence that was scientifically matched to other elements of the case, thus linking him to the crime. During questioning, he first gave an implausible story about being forced to deliver the letter under threat, but he later confessed to the whole plot. So the man behind the attack was apparently Punjilal Mayer. But why, we have to wonder. Now, he was a 49-year-old English lecturer and a former college principal, and his motive was revenge. Years earlier, he had been serving as acting principal of Jyoti Vikas College. But in 2014, he was replaced by history lecturer Sanjukta Sahu, who just happened to be Sourya's mother. Mayer refused to give up his position and threatened her openly. Being removed from his position left him humiliated, and his resentment grew into an obsession. And that bitterness eventually turned into a meticulous plan to destroy her family. He started preparing months in advance. He studied bomb making through YouTube videos and online manuals. God, you can find everything online, can't you? But as a wise guy, he later deleted his browser history. During a celebration in 2017, he collected firecrackers in order to stockpile gunpowder. He tested his devices by packing the powder into LED lights and then triggering them to make sure that they worked. When the device was ready, he packed it into a cardboard box, wrapped it like a wedding gift, and on the day he mailed it, he even made an alibi for himself by attending class at the college. He then travelled nearly 250 kilometres by train to Raipur, deliberately avoiding buying a ticket to leave no record behind. When he was there, he found a courier shop in a basement that had no cameras or scanning machines. He mailed the box under a false name, S.K. Sharma, and gave a fake return address. He listed the contents as gift articles and sweets. Dirty bastard. That evening he quietly took the train back home, and 3 days later the box reached the Sahu household. And as a deliberate affront and something of hiding in plain sight, he attended both Sourya's wedding and later his funeral, hiding in plain sight as a caring colleague of Sourya's mother. Vindictive, I think you can safely say. In August of 2018, the crime branch filled its charge sheet, naming him as the only person of interest. The prosecution relied on circumstantial evidence, the anonymous letter, railway parking receipts, his phones and laptop, and testimony from 72 witnesses. They also tied him to the Raipur courier shop. Punjilal was charged with murder, attempted murder, and the use of explosives. Prosecutors called the crime heinous, and I don't think anybody would disagree. And they reminded the court that he planned this for months, including holding materials. He built the bomb himself, and he deliberately sent it disguised as a gift to a newlywed couple. A very diabolical scheme. Reema became a central figure during the trial. She testified about sitting beside her husband as he opened the package, about the blinding flash of the explosion, and about waking up in the hospital to learn Sourya was gone. She said that the burns scarred her not just physically, but emotionally. Her young marriage destroyed, and her future stolen. For weeks after her discharge, she couldn't sleep through the night without reliving the moment of the blast. I haven't seen any reports of this, but I imagine a combination of PTSD and survivor guilt have made her life in much of the 8 years since the blast something of a living hell. Though Sourya's family have tried to help her healing and recovery journey in a somewhat unexpected way, but I will come back to that later on. Some 7 years after the devastating incident, on May the 28th, 2025, a district court in Bolangir convinced Punjilal and sentenced him to life in prison, along with a fine of 50,000 Indian rupees. Judge Sonali Patnaik ruled that while the crime was heinous, it did not qualify as a rarest of the rare case that could bring the death penalty. Now, upon hearing the outcome, Sourya's parents had mixed feelings of the sentencing. His mother, Sanjukta, said that she was satisfied with the ruling, but added that nothing could bring her son back. His father, Rabindra, told the media, "We were hoping for capital punishment in this crime, considering its rarest of the rare nature." But the court sentenced life imprisonment, and we express our gratitude to the court.
The Patnagar parcel bomb case in the Balangir district of Odisha shattered the family of Sanjukta Sahu. Days after the wedding of his son, Soumya Sekhar, a parcel arrived at Sanjukta's house from Raipur. The parcel, expected to be a token of love, turned out to be lethal. On February 23, 2018, the gift box exploded, killing the newlywed Soumya Sekhar and his grandmother. However, his wife Reema survived. A blind case with no eyewitness and no immediate material evidence seemed almost impossible to solve until Arun Botra, then IG Crime Branch, took over Odisha's first gift bomb case. Botra recalled the incident when an anonymous letter sent to the Balangir SP came as a breakthrough. The letter, meant to mislead the police, served as proof to drag the culprit behind bars. The polished English made it clear that it had been written by an educated individual, eventually bringing Punjilal, a colleague of Soumya's mother Sanjukta Sahu and an English lecturer at Jyoti Vikas College in Balangir, under the scanner. Searches at his home revealed 9 unused envelopes, identical to the one used to post the letter. Forensic reports confirmed the matching glue sample collected from Punjilal's house, the same printer and laptop used to draft the letter. The test exposed the link. Bomb casings and firecracker wrappers used in the parcel were recovered from a dustbin. Even the adhesive and gunpowder residues matched in forensic labs. Punjilal's plan to wipe out Sanjukta's family was cold and calculated. Though justice cannot undo the loss, it was served as Punjilal Meher was handed life imprisonment on May 28, 2025.
For investigators, the conviction was a hard-won victory, according to Arun Botra, who was quoted as saying after the announcement, "We are satisfied that we took it to conviction from a blind case, and justice is served to the family." Now, 6 years later, Reema has remarried and moved abroad. In a move that was both surprising but comforting, as I mentioned Soumya's family earlier on helping out, it was Soumya's own father that helped arrange her second marriage so she could heal and find joy again. Resilient, she remains close to her in-laws and keeps in regular contact with them, standing strong against the tragedy that could have had greater ripple effects than it ended up having. Not that the existing ripple effects are not significant. India's first parcel bomb case remains one of the most shocking examples of calculated revenge. What began as professional jealousy turned into an act of violence and cruelty that shattered an entire family. Reema, who still carries the scars of that day, has become the lasting symbol of the tragedy. Her survival a reminder of both the abject cruelty of the attack itself and also of the strength it takes to go on after losing everything in a single moment. So we are left asking, in this case of revenge and retribution, was the payoff worth it? He may have been pissed off, jealous and bitter, but did Punjilal Mayer really think all of his woes and negative feelings would be wiped away with one act of vengeance? And the fact that Mayer targeted Sanjukta's son rather than the lecturer herself is an act of true evil that speaks of wanting Sanjukta to suffer more than just through the act itself. It is a toxicity and vitriol that speaks of a true selfishness and a bitterness that defies belief. Just because he was angry about being passed over, rather than double down and work harder or ask the board for feedback on how he could ensure that he would be the next in line if that time came, he just blamed Sanjukta for taking what he thought was rightfully his. And he desperately wanted to hurt her so deeply that killing her child seemed the only proportionate response. Make it make sense. Now, Sourya's great aunt was 85 years old. I'm not saying that she deserved to die. No one should die in this hideous, cruel way. But she had lived, while Sourya was just beginning married life, and was targeted not because of who he was as a person, but simply because of who his mother was. While the media may parade headlines about India's first parcel bomb, behind the headline is a tragic story of anger, jealousy, and pure unadulterated venom. But a plan to divert suspicion with the letter came back to bite him on the arse. And were it not for him trying to make things more complicated than they needed to be, he may never have been caught. So we have to be grateful for his arrogance as we let him slip from our minds and we focus on the victims of this tragedy and its ongoing ripple effects. As ever, I will dedicate this episode to the victims in the shape of those who lost their lives in Janamani and Sourya Sahu, but with special mention for Reena, whose ongoing suffering, tempered somewhat by the kindness of Sourya's parents, deserves to be noted and remembered. I send love to Reena and to all of those touched by the ripple effects of this devastating attack from 2018 that resonated across all of India. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. I am so grateful to everyone who watches my content. And if you could drop a comment or a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, it would mean an awful lot to me as it helps me to reach more people. But with that said, I'm Steve, this bumbling lummox is Samson, and we will see you when we see you.
Say that you're ready, but you won't like it. You say that